Today we're going to be working on section 4.1, and 4.1 is all to do with multiplication and then mixing in what we already know about place value. So I'm going to show us a little bit here on the whiteboard, and then we're going to work in our math books as well on some examples. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at just a very simple multiplication problem. So my first multiplication problem is just going to be 3 times 1. Okay? 3 times 1, we can all think back to our identity property of multiplication. I know that that's going to be 3. Okay, and I have my blocks here to show this. I have 3 groups, 1, 2, 3, of 1 in each group. So my answer would be 3. Now, here's where my place value is going to come in, because I'm going to change my numbers a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to have a very similar problem, but I'm going to take 3 times 10 this time. Now, our 10s are a fact group that we are usually pretty good with. We can solve those pretty quickly. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate it again just so you can kind of see. So I have my base 10 blocks here. So I know that I have 10 blocks. If I were to add single ones up, I'd have 10 here. So I have a group of 10, a group of 10, and a group of 10, giving me 3 groups of 10, or my answer would be 30. All right. Now I'm going to go even farther with my place value, and this time I'm going to try 3 times 100. All right, now my 3 times 100, 100 is not something we practice a whole lot, but I'm going to use my place value again, and I'm going to use my place value blocks. All right, so I'm guessing we've seen these before. We know that these are worth 100. That's going to be how big my group is. Now I just need 3 of them. Or 100, 200, and we'll kind of barely fit it on there, 300. Okay, so now I'd have my 3 groups of 100, or my answer would be 300. And this is really what we're going to be working with today, and you can kind of see we're starting to develop a pattern here, where really I'm doing the same problem 3 times 1, 3 times 1, just now I'm in a different size group. And I could do the same thing if I went up farther, just with my larger base 10 blocks. All right, but I'm really focused on that place value here, where I am still having the same problem, this 3 times 1, and if I cover up this 0, I still have 3 times 1. If I cover up these, I still have 3 times 1. And that's really my base problem. I'm just changing slight grouping based on my place value. So instead of having individual cubes like my top one here, when I multiply by 10, I have my base 10 blocks. When I multiply by 100, I have my 100 blocks. All right, so now let's go ahead and let's take what we just learned here and let's apply it to our book and take a look at some examples. So you'll notice we switched over to our math book now, and that's really what we're going to be taking a look at here, and then we'll be working into our homework when you're finished with this. So our section is its multiples of 10, 100, and 1000, and that's really that place value that we're going to be working on. You'll be able to solve all these using those basic fact problems from our multiplication helper. So if you need your multiplication helper, if you'd like to use it, I'd recommend pausing the video now and going to grab it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at example 1 here. All right, example 1 tells us that the whale shark is the world's largest fish. Its mouth is 5 feet long, and each foot contains 600 teeth. How many teeth does a whale shark have? All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to really take a look and focus on our place value. So I know that if I'm going in and I'm solving this problem, first thing I want to do is my word problem is I want to find what information I have. So first thing I have is I know that there are 5 feet long. Okay, that's how long the mouth is. And I know that each foot contains 600 teeth. So if I notice, then my problem here is I'm trying to solve how many teeth does the whale shark have. Again, I always want to go in and I want to find that information first. What information am I using? 5 feet long and 600 teeth per foot. And then also I want to know what my question is. And this one is, how many teeth does a whale shark have? So I'm going to pull that out, and I know that I'm going to be solving here 5 times 600. Now, here's where my basic facts come in, and this is where my place value is going to come in as well. So I know that the problem I'm going to be solving is 5 times 6. All right, I know that there are many ways I can solve that. I can take out my multiplication helper to help me with that. But for this one, since I'm pretty good with my 5s, I'm going to count by 5 6 times. I'm going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Now I have my 6 groups of 5, and I know that my answer is 30. So the problem sits right now, I did 5 times 6 ones, so that's 5 groups of 6 ones. That would get me 30 ones. Now I'm going to step it up one because I need to remember my problem here is I'm trying to solve 5 times 600. So I'm working my way up to that by using my place value. So now I'm going to try 5 times 60. So what this one now is saying is 5 times 6 tens. So if we think back to our base 10 blocks that we started with, now I'd be using those longs. So now I'd have 5 groups with 6 of those longs in each one. I'm still going to do the same problem, and I can even think I'm going to cover this 0 up and pretend it's not there right now. Now I have 5 times 6. I did that above. I know that that is 30. Now I need to remember that I covered this 0 up before to just solve 5 times 6, but now I need to add that 0 back because I'm working with tens now and not ones like before. So now because I'm working with tens, I'm going to add that 0 back. So now I know that 5 times 60 is going to get me 300. I'm close, but I'm not quite to my original problem of 5 times 600. So now I need to step up one more time. And now you'll notice that I have 5 times 600, or 5 groups of 6, and those hundreds, again, thinking back to our base 10 blocks, those flats, those would be our hundreds. So we have 5 groups with 6 of those flats in each one. So now again, I like to just cover these up and pretend they're not here for right now. I still have my original fact problem of 5 times 6. If I look back, I remember that that is 30. And now I covered them up before, but now I need to reintroduce those again. So I need to add these 2 zeros back into my problem because I'm multiplying by 600, not just by 6 ones like I was before. So I'm going to add those 2 zeros into my hundreds. And now I can see that 5 times 6 hundreds, so 6 of those flats or those hundreds, is going to be 30 hundreds. Another way of writing 30 hundreds is 3,000, and that's what my answer here was I got. So if I put it all together, I know that my answer would be 3,000. Go ahead and take a look at example 2 here. Example 2 is not written in a word form, it's more of in our standard form. So we're given the problem here, find 3 times 7,000. All right, so again, I'm always going to start with just my basic fact here. So I get to cover those zeros up, and this is a reason that 0 is my absolute favorite number in math, because it helps us make math so easy. So I'm going to cover these zeros up, and I'm going to start with just my basic fact, 3 times 7. Again, there are lots of ways I can solve this. If I have my multiplication helper, I can use that. If I want to do my skip counting by 3s or by 7s, I can do that. For this one, I've been practicing my facts on extra math a lot, so I just happen to know this one. And I know that 3 times 7 is 21. All right, and again, we're always kind of looking at this. We have our 3 times 7 ones, so this is 7 ones again, equals 21 ones, or 21. Now we're going to step up 1, and this is always working on that place value. We're stepping up just 1 here. So now I have 3 times 7d, or another way of writing 70 is 7 tens. So think back to those base 10 blocks again. We're dealing with those longs right now. So I'm going to do my original problem of 3 times 7. Get to always start with that nice helper fact. Then I have this 1 0 here. Since I'm dealing with tens, I don't have 21. I have 21 tens. So I need to add that 0 in. So I get 210. Now I'm going to keep stepping up, and I'm dealing with 3 times 700. Or again, 3 times 7 hundreds, or 7 of those flats. So now I'm going to do my problem again. I always start with that basic fact problem, 3. And I'm going to start with my basic fact here of 3 times 7. And I know when I multiply 3 by 7, I'm going to end up with 21 again. Now this time, again, remember, I'm not dealing with 21 ones, so it's not just 21. I'm not dealing with 21 tens. It's actually 21 hundreds. So what I need to do is I need to add those 2 zeros in to make that our hundreds. All right, now I have my last step here. I'm going to step up my last time. Again, I always start with that original fact of that 3 times 7. 3 times 7 is going to get me 21. And now, instead of dealing with ones, tens, hundreds, I'm up to my thousands. Okay, so I need to think to myself, how many zeros does my thousands have? If I know I go by my place value, I keep adding up here. I have 1 for my tens, 2 for my hundreds, and now I'm at 3 for my thousands. So I'm going to go ahead and add those 3 zeros in. All right, don't forget my commas here. Now I know 3 times 7,000 is going to be 21,000. I have that here. And the way I write 21,000 is 21, comma, and then my 3 zeros after. Okay? And I think we just noticed something really important here. If we look, you can kind of see our zeros are matching up here. So we have 1 0 for our tens. We got 1 over here. We got 2 zeros for our hundreds. We got 2 zeros over here. We got 3 zeros for our thousands. We got 3 over here. Kind of notice that pattern there. That kind of really helps me out when I'm working through this. I'll take a break from our book again. I know we're kind of jumping around quickly, so I appreciate you sticking with me and being patient. But we're going to take a look at our book again, or away from our book. We're going to take a look at one that's going to come up in your homework. All right, so we've seen these ones before. Sometimes there'll be a variable in there. It could be a letter, a question mark. This time we're just going to look at it as a blank. But I want to try and solve this and find this missing factor here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my problem just like I normally would, and I'm going to kind of think about what would make this problem work. Now, based on what I just learned, I know that something with those zeros I could do in these multiplication problems is I can kind of cover them up and save them for later. All right, so that's what I'm going to do right now. So I have my problem here is 4 times something, or our variable, equals 80. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this as 4 times our blank equals 8. And I'm just going to save that 0 for later. All right, now this one I can probably see a little easier. Okay, 4 times something equals 8. I can think to myself, I can use my multiplication helper to help me find this. Or if I've been really practicing those math facts, I might know this one right away. I know this one right away is going to be 4 times 2 equals 8. All right, now I'm going to fall back on those facts I know and use this to help me, because 4 times 2 equals 8. Now I need to think to myself, 4 times what's going to equal 80? All right, so before I learned I can kind of match those zeros, and that's really what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to see over here and notice in 80 I have 1 0. All right, I need to match it now so they level out and I have the same number over here. So I know that 4 times 2 equals 8. And now I just need to match up my zeros. So I'm going to take my zeros here. I have 1 over here, and I'm going to put 1 over here. Now I'm going to think to myself, does 4 times 20 equal 80? And that's where I'll work through and solve that. So really you can see just by matching those zeros and knowing those facts, our basic facts, we can solve these ones as well. So this is one that will come up in your homework. So take your time and really work through and find that base fact first to help you. All right? Take your time, work through your homework carefully. If you have any questions or you're confused at all, watch this video again. And then if you still have questions or still are confused, reach out to your teacher during your office hours.